All right, good morning, everyone. I'm shooting this a bit earlier than the 1 p.m. time frame because I have a meeting to attend. So, good morning, everyone. I trust we're all doing great. Welcome to day 8 of Build with Pandora, a knowledge sharing session whereby we teach you and pretty much show you ways in which we are able to successfully deploy marketing efforts for our clients across sectors and as well as industries. As I mentioned earlier, today's day 8. My name remains Kehinde Ruth Onasoga, KRO, and I'm happy to pretty much begin the session for today. But before we do that, a bit of a recap. Yesterday we talked about, I believe the topic was on effective marketing tips for business to business organizations that have limited budgets, seen as the post COVID 19 situation. We've seen that quite a number of budgets, at least for the last couple of years, I believe it's improving greatly now. Budgets were drastically cut short or were reduced. So that being said, we touch on effective tips to ensure marketers within this organizations are able to effectively market the product that is attaining the corporate objectives as well as the marketing objectives of the organization, as the case may be. All right. So today we're going to be addressing something similar, but not quite so. So it's addressing marketing mistakes that business-to-business organizations actually make. And the reason for this topic is because we actually get quite a number of questions in line with some of these mistakes. And we as an agency come in and we pretty much course correct some of these mistakes. And it's pretty much showing you exactly how or talk you through exactly how we do address some of these situations. So I have with me my notes, and I'm going to be diving right into it. One of the first things I'm going to touch on is the excessive use of technical words. This is something that, aside from even business to business organization, the same thing applies to business to consumer organizations. So that's B2C. We see the use of excessive technical words, especially if there has to do with if it's businesses that has to do with machineries, IT, information technology, and so on and so forth. But that should not be the case. In that situation, you want to simplify some of the words. Yes, you can throw in some of the technical words here and there because your target audience ought to understand these words. However, if you're looking to educate and inform people, you want to make sure it's something that is, as you know, it's a content that they can easily follow along with. Else, they're gonna target as boring. It's gonna be effectively boring for them. So the excessive use of technical words, technical jargons, is what we also call it in marketing. You want to cut down on that. You want to simplify the words that any layman would understand it. Okay. So that way you're communicating, you're passing across the information you want to pass across to ensure that at the end of the day it's something that is adopted. A classical point for this is one of our clients within the machinery space. Obviously, it's a machinery, organization, and they know who they're talking to in terms of the logistics, the transportation guys, or the guys in the mechanical engineering part of things within certain companies. So they know who they're talking to. However, for the end users, that's the person that would sign off on them adopting some of this solution, they would have to be a little less technical because that way they will understand that the bosses don't, understand what is being signed off of. So you have to simplify some of those information for them as well. Another is ignoring the importance of having a consistent digital footprint. So this is something that we have seen countless times, especially based off on research carried out for certain business-to-business organizations. The lack of wanting to consistently build a digital presence is a problem. And there is so much free room in that space right now in terms of search engines because you hardly see categorization of business-to-business organizations' website across, the search engine platforms. What am I talking about? Let's case in point. Let's say there's a pre-engineering company that is currently in the Nigerian market, right? And they're looking to increase the relevance of the keywords pre-engineered building, pardon me, that those that are looking for such services are searching for across the World Wide Web. But because their digital footprint is not as optimized, either the competitors that are actually doing that, the keyword goes to them and their website ranks higher, or their the social media pages of their competitors. So some of these examples are pretty much classical examples that we see. So it's very important that while you're a business-to-business organization, a digital consistency in digital footprint does not have to be relegated to just business to consumer. And that's because, again, people would always search at certain keywords they're looking for, regardless of whether it's a business-to-business or business-to-consumer. They're just looking for a need to be filled. Right, they're just looking for the information they're searching for, so that they can actually adopt whatever service they're looking for. So it's very important that you consistently build a digital footprint, and it's pretty much as I've highlighted in the last couple of days. It's having that reception, that digital reception, give people an entrance, a preview into your world. What does that look like? What can they expect from you? What level of professionalism? And this has to do with, the aesthetics of your website, the navigational patterns on your website as well. Are information accessible, easily accessible, for people to actually see and digest? Or is it that they would have to struggle and look for the information on your website, as well as the content, on your website? What does that content look like? Does it carry certain keywords that rank your site, higher than your competitors? Do you consistently have information, not just the information on the website that would be there for like 5 years? No, it's the consistency of revamping that content, the consistency of upgrading your keywords. And you can equally do that if you do not want to touch the content of your website by leveraging the blog. I see a lot of websites these days no longer have blogs. That is a big no-no. And that's because the blog is where the search engine, the algorithm for search engines, aside from Google, it can be Bing, it can be Yahoo, it can be any foreign site. That's where they will crawl, and that's where they will find information that is relevant to your target audience once they search out certain key terms for that. So a blog is very relevant. It makes up part of your digital footprint and should not be neglected. Social media is equally as important. Again, I see a lot of business organizations neglect their social media platforms because you do not convert quite a number of business-to-business deals, leveraging social media as maybe someone selling hair or shoe would, they're a business consumer organization. However, it's all about perception, right? It's all about connecting emotionally to the needs of your audience. And if they can see that there's a consistency in how you portray yourself across your website, across your social media platforms, across relevant channels of communication, there is a huge factor that their trust in your brand would actually go up as opposed to reduce, right? So consistency in how you post. Doesn't have to be every day, can just be once a week. Consistency in terms of your aesthetics. How do you leverage your brand aesthetics, your brand archetype? Is your logo just, not a logo, just as you see fit, or the colors as you see fit as well? So some days you use pink, another day you use yellow. Or is there blurriness, lack of crisp and cleanness rather, in terms of how you portray your visuals? So if you're a solar company, right, and your target audience are around the contractors, mini grid providers. Okay, up and back. I connect to that image being on my roof. So that's the solar panels being on my roof. I can easily connect to me adopting this service, and this is what I can get. And some of these things are psychological, right? The mind is just doing its own thing and communicating to the brain, right? And you're receiving that information. So you want to ensure that at every basis, the bases are covered, right? So it's very important. And another is having an ineffective call to action. And this is what I see a lot. In fact, a campaign that we carried out of recent actually had one of this. That's the lack of effective call to action being the reason why we did not get as much leads. Yes, we did get leads for the brand, but not as much as we would have hoped. And that's because it was not optimized. The landing page was absolutely not optimized for that campaign. And that's because they were just not, it was not a platform that heavily dwelled on building a digital footprint for the brand. There's more of, yeah, you go out there, have sales team and close the deals, as opposed to, focusing on your digital presence. But one, it doesn't have to be agnostic of each other. You can have a great digital footprint and you can have a very effective sales team that will easily convert that as well. In fact, it makes the job of the salespeople easier, because once they go to a person's office and the person searches out your brand and they see the cleanness, they see the effectiveness of your website, it's one that they would want to buy into almost immediately, right? Again, it's a psychological thing. It's not one thing that can fully be explained. Another is, so yes, back to having a trackable as well as effective call to action. In terms of having it being trackable, it's as simple as saying that when you set up a website, showing that you have certain tracking tools that sees the flow of information. So how do your customers interact with your website? Is your call to action one that they click on it and it takes them somewhere and you can easily track where it takes them to? Or is it one that you do not click at all? And I believe email marketing platform also provides you with this insight. So it's very important that while we are looking to, ensure we have an optimized website, we have a aesthetically pleasing website, the content is great, ensure that your call to action, which is also called CTA, it's one that is effective for your audience, as well as one that is trackable. Very, very important, because you can easily measure the performance of your site using those metrics. All right, another, marketing mistakes that business-to-business organizations, especially organizations that are globally recognized, so they have a global presence, have a global office, and they have a subsidiary maybe somewhere in Nigeria, is the lack of localizing the information. Yeah. I'm going to give you an example. So an organization that we are working with, this is actually a foreign organization, and they're coming to the African space afresh, new. They've never been here before. Yes, they closed a couple of deals, but they want to establish a presence here. One of the things we advise them to do is almost immediately create that presence, right? That presence within the African space. What does that mean? It means that aside from your global website, which is all Caucasians, if you're coming to Africa, our skin tone, we matter. So the blackness of us actually matters, and needs to be, it needs to be shown on your website as well. Again, so these are some of the psychological elements that will ensure the adoption of whatever it is you're selling, versus those that would focus on just, having splashes of, Caucasians on your website without having any element of the Africanness. While you're in the African market, and also effectively build a digital platform, build or set up social media platforms that are specifically for this region, or simply just with the global reach, add elements of the Africanism into it as well. So you have your images, your stock images, or your real-time images with Africanness, right? Let's say carry the African thing, the skin color, it matters a lot, the hair type, it matters a lot. So these are some of the things that I wanted to touch on as well. And so for database segmentation, so we talked about rather back to what I was saying concerning the global reach as well. You also want to look at things such as when you're carrying out your marketing campaigns, right, and you have marketing goals, is it one that you're building that campaign from a global, maybe an office based in the UK, and you're expecting it to be applicable within the African market? That may not work, because number one, it's an emerging market. Nigeria is an emerging market one. Two, we are quite unique in how we adopt solutions. So you want to create solutions that are very particular and specific to us. The tonality matters, the style of communication matters, the images of the people matter. So what people are you putting there? Are you putting African Americans? Do they sound like us? Things of that nature, they're very important. It may not be widely said, but those things actually be noted as well and should be considered. Now, another mistake that I noticed that a lot of business-to-business organizations make is lack of database segmentation. Business-to-business organizations attend a lot of events, right? And they curate a lot of events as well. However, once you're done with these events, what do they do with the database? How do they effectively segment this database? This is equally very important, because the lack thereof of segmentation of your database would mean that you're not speaking to the core needs of your audience, and that's very important. So the case in point is, I'm going for let's say a clean energy conference, and there's a solar company, the business to business organization is a solar company, and in the data, in the sheet that's shared, there is no indication as to, number one, am I a contractor, am I resident that just needs, solar powered solutions in my home, am I, in logistics? So those things have to be made explicit clear, right? You want to create columns for that, so that way once you're done with the event, right, it's pretty much segmenting it based off on, number one, the job description of who these people are, right? So that way, let's say it's a contractor that sells mini grids. It's that simple. You want to subcontract maybe some of your solar energy, so that when you're actually sending out newsletters, so your information, the messaging in your newsletter specifically speaks to that need. If it's someone that actually just has a need for a solar panel in their home to power some of their, some of the appliances, the messaging is quite different. You're not reselling it to them. You're pretty much saying that, let us come into your home. Let us ensure that you have consistent power 24/7. The messaging is quite different. That's what I'm trying to point out. So it's very important that segmentation as well as personalization of information towards your target audience is very critical. Another thing I'm going to touch on is pretty much the excessive use of marketing channels. This is one I also see a lot. It tends to be seen that marketing is one of the easiest things. It is, if you know what you're doing. If you do not know what you're doing, it can easily flop, right? And to be detrimental, it actually would mar the brand as opposed to making the brand. So the excessive use of marketing channel can mean that you are leveraging email marketing, but you're leveraging it so much so that it never converts. People do not open your database. You can have a database of about 1 billion people, and maybe 0.1% do not even open it. Yes, they see it, but they do not open it. That's a problem, because it's not converting. So you want to retrace your steps, and pretty much like I mentioned previously, you want to segment your database, right? Who are these people in your database, and speak to the core of their needs, right? And if you have no idea as to, maybe you're a marketing enthusiast, or you just joined the organization and you just met with a database that's all over the place, it's as simple as sending out a survey. What did you hear about us? What do you do? Just connecting with your with the database afresh as well as anew, so that way you can easily pick that up, and you can ensure that you're segmenting the database in the way that you can effectively use it. So that would also curb the excessive use of it. I also see a lot of companies, as business companies, sending out emails every single day. That's a no-no. That can be frustrating. Imagine receiving emails every single day, and they're all about selling this, selling that, adopting this, adopting that. Again, placing yourself in the shoes of your customer, you will get frustrated. You want to mark it as spam. You want to block the sender of that particular newsletter. So again, putting yourself in your customer shoes gives you a lot of insight as to what you should actually do, in terms of your marketing efforts. Very, very critical. You also want to ensure that you space out in terms of your content marketing. You want to test it out for the first 3 months. Number one, send out newsletters once a week. You can start with that, or send out newsletters bi-monthly, so twice a month. All right, once you start that, you start noticing the change in terms of your database, and you can take it up from there. Another is inconsistency or lack of follow-ups. That's one thing. That's one marketing avenue I've seen, and that's a cross between sales and marketing. A lot of business organizations, they kind of lack follow-ups. And I'm a classic example of that. So I actually contacted a company to actually provide me with solar solution. And they came to do the fundamentals in terms of coming to the apartment to check where they would install water, blah, blah. But till then, as I'm speaking to you, I'm yet to receive anything in terms of a quote. So things of that nature. There's a lack of follow-up, right? So you're bombarding your audience with information marketing activities, marketing newsletters, social media posts. But those that you have on ground right now, what are you doing with them? So that lack of consistency, that inconsistency rather, in terms of follow-up, needs to be curbed as well. dive into your database, because trust me, it's easier to convert those already in the system than to convert those that are still outside the system. All right, so I think that's, I'm going to stop there now, and that brings me to the end of day 8, the session for day 8. Feel free to drop me any questions. I have received some questions. I'm going to be addressing those questions potentially very soon. And thank you very much, and have a wonderful day. If you'd like to watch some of the replays, it's on the YouTube page for Pandora as well as our LinkedIn page. Feel free to jump on there and have a look at those. Thank you so much.